Tony Hill, thank you very much for your time. Let's cover off today's serious incident where a person in a stolen car at high speed rammed into a police officer car on QEII Drive. How are your officers doing?
So I'm told the officers are uninjured, which is the great news, and so is the individual involved as well. But yeah, these things are concerning.
Are they on the rise? Or the offender's ability to not care about an officer's welfare?
So I don't know about the latter. I think that there's probably some evidence about as society changes, I suppose, and their feelings towards authority is probably something that's evolved over time. But in relation to this case, we go through spates of these where we get reasonable numbers of pursuits that are occurring or fleeing a driver event, and by and large, our staff don't pursue vehicles, so they think there's high risk. On this occasion, it seems like the officer was unaware that this vehicle was coming up behind him at high speed, and potentially the offenders actually targeted the car.
When we spoke a few months back now, this was one thing that you told me kept you up at night, and that's the safety of your officers.
Yeah. I mean, our staff's safety going to any event is always front of mind for me, and to make sure that that everyone goes home at the end of the shift is really the goal that all our leaders are after. And we do a lot to protect our staff, but we do know that we do deploy them into some dangerous environments from time to time, and pursuits is one of those things. I'd have to say I'm super impressed in the maturity of our staff. The last 2 or 3 nights there's been stolen vehicles being driven around the city, and they know if they got into pursuits of those things that actually they're unlikely to resolve them by pursuing them. That's the first thing, and secondly, we put the community at risk by doing that as well. So we try to resolve those by working out where the offender might go to, potentially using road spikes instead of just chasing them. So, but our staff are, unfortunately, to the circumstances, are quite experienced in this now when we do look to resolve them.
And also, as a result of some of these stolen car incidents the last couple of weeks, you've had to employ the commercial helicopters again. How important is it to have that tactical response from the air now?
Well, undoubtedly, it's a safe way to resolve these things if we can, if we have helicopter or eyes on in the air to show us where the offenders have gone to. We can stand some distance off and let them go and park up and go to an address and then go and apprehend them later. Of course, that's a much safer one there. We don't tend to do that terribly often. Not just because it's it's expensive, but on most occasions these things have started and finished in such a short amount of time. It's not practical to actually get the helicopter in position to do that. So,
bring back the eagle, people are saying.
Yeah, I do get calls from our people as well as community about bringing back the eagle. It's not something that we're considering at the moment. If you think about the cost involved in that, we can do a lot of policing with that money in different ways, and we're managing whilst there's significant risk around that, what is a reasonably small crime program.
Okay. The district review, how are you getting on with that? And when have applications closed for submissions, haven't they?
Yes, they closed some time ago. We got a lot of feedback, and we got over 200 submissions from our staff, and that was really useful because arguably the people who understand policing services the best are our people, and I've personally read every one of those submissions to just to get a really good understanding for myself about what our people say about where we got to in terms of proposal. And of course, we've got over 800 submissions from the public, and I've reviewed a number of those as well, just trying to see what the themes were. We had a team theme up that information as well, so they went through and just to give us some ideas about what it is that the community are most concerned about, which has given us the opportunity to go back into the proposal and rethink that. Had some discussions with the executive about the themes. We're in probably the latter stages of considering that now, so hopefully in the next week or so we'll have a final proposal ready.
Also, I get the impression it's about myth busting as well, and talking to the community about why you're actually doing this and why you're putting people here as opposed to there. Do you think as a result of that you've managed to change many minds who were maybe apprehensive about the changes? What's your sort of gut feeling?
Yeah, that was certainly evident in the community meetings we were at. Once we got in the room and started to talk about the the evolving way in which police services are being delivered, and other factors that make, these are all deployment decisions about where we put our staff and why, and what the evidence tells us about the demand for police services. And I think what communities really want is reassurances the service that they get now and value will continue, albeit that we might be doing that in a slightly different way. And our focus all the whole way along has been making sure that we can provide a great service in a really balanced way across the district.
Banks Peninsula, a lot of the community members over there fundraising now to get their own CCTV cameras, I suppose, because of boy racer activity. What place do you see police having in all of this?
Well, of course, we want to follow up on complaints about boy racer activity. We've got a team dedicated to actually policing them. We're actually very effective in policing them as well. Arguably, we had a look at what other districts are doing in response to the same sort of issues. And I hand on heart, I'd say that we're probably ahead of most in terms of our ability to police this, this group.
You still have sorry to interrupt, you still have the police boy racer unit, don't you?
Yes, yeah, anti-social road use.
Oh, that's a nice term. Yeah. Do they go out every Friday and Saturday night, or how do they?
Look, we deploy them at different times, but but they and we've deployed them to other districts who are having lower events. Our intelligence team, pick up on anything that's a sort of floating around on social media about planned events for these things, and we deploy. We probably over-deploy to some of these events to make sure that we are managing the risk. The ones we can't always control is half a dozen cars getting together on late on a Saturday or Friday night or something, and spontaneously ending up in one area. But once we find out or made aware of them, we do deploy to them.
Ram raids have decreased across the country, and there's no specific data I don't think I've read anywhere about Canterbury, but I can only assume it's gone down here as well because I'm not reporting as many. Yeah. Do you see that as a direct result of policing? Is it because the youths are being locked up, or do you think they've moved on to something else?
Look, I'd love to say this was a direct result of outstanding work that the police have done, and we have done great work. Like our apprehension of ram raiders at the time was very, very high, and but the reality is that this is a group of offenders that have arguably moved on to doing other things. This is probably the same group that are stealing cars and driving around them. They're just not also doing ram raids. And I think part of that reason was is that when they do a ram raid, they disable a vehicle in the process. They weren't overly motivated about selling the proceeds of the burglaries or moving that on. So it wasn't really the thing that was driving their crime. And I think internationally we've seen that the trend around that has come and gone, and they may come back again. But
I hate to think what they're going to think of next.
Well, what
are they doing now?
We're still
driving their cars aimlessly around the city, causing chaos. Or?
Well, they're stealing cars and driving them around, and that's the group that we're actively targeting at the moment to make sure that. We want to make sure we apprehend them and put them before the courts, or other, hold them to account in other ways to make sure that. That we're men offending. We're putting a lot of work into youth offending in general around, and trying to bring a whole of family approach to cross government, which you've probably already heard about.
Speaking of that group, I get the impression, Tony, it's pretty much quite a small cohort of youths, isn't it? That can actually cause a lot of issues for police and take up a lot of time and resources, right?
Yes, and it's not unique just to Canterbury District. It's in all districts that you can see a notable decrease in offending by a very small number of offenders that have been in custody or put into other places that they can't offend for a period of time, and which really does help us direct, and we should be focused on really high appropriate offender management.
Today's a important or special day for you, I think.
Yeah.
Celebrating, you don't look 35, 35th anniversary for you and the police.
Yes, yeah.
When you look back, Tony, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah.
When you look back on the 35 years, how much has policing changed over that time?
Oh, look, it's changed phenomenally, and I think it's and all government organisations probably have as well. But I think when I first joined police, it wasn't uncommon to go into detectives' office and they had an ashtray on the table and people were smoking and all sorts of things that were normal practices in those days. We look back now and probably scratch our head and think, what were we thinking? it seemed like a real, my very first day, it felt like I was very lucky and a real privilege to come into this organisation and get a chance to do this job, and still feels like that today. I still, if it doesn't feel like a job, it feels like it's been something I'll probably regretfully have to end one day, as for all of us, of course. But I've been, I'm not going to sit here and say I've enjoyed absolutely every day of that, but the days I haven't enjoyed have been few and far between. And I often say to our new people too, is that there'll be some days you come to work and we've gratefully done it without pay, and then other days we can't pay you enough to do the jobs that we ask you to do, just because of they're often at scenes when, where people have passed away in bizarre circumstances and things that actually is quite tough for our staff to go through at times.
What has been, I guess, the most rewarding aspect of your job?
Well, I think there's just so many things that I could point to about, I've worked on murder cases and, been involved in targeted offenders and high-end drug cases and all sorts of things. But I still feel the thing I get the most pleasure out is being able to lead this team in this district. And I felt the same when I was in Northland as well. It just feels like it's a great privilege and opportunity. And oddly enough, when I joined police, my goal was to become a detective. And as I've progressed on, I've just seen there's been opportunities where I thought I might be able to make a difference, and I've progressed on and on. So, I've been. It seems like it was only yesterday I was joining, and yet 35 years on now, I look around the few of my wingmates that are still around and are still in the organisation. I think it's probably the same for all of us. It's gone so fast.
Did you get a cake or a gold watch or something?
No, I got the commissioner did contact me this morning to congratulate me on my service, which I thought that was really nice of him to do this. He was about to depart to go overseas to another meeting, but no, it was great to have that contact. And many of course, many of my colleagues around here have contacted me today to congratulate me as well. So, that's a nice side of our job too. We try and reach out and contact and acknowledge our staff as they reach various milestones. So.
Well, thank you for your service, and I guess may your service continue.
Yeah, well, I hope so. Thank you, Chris.